Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review The Quick and the Dead. So, this movie, of course, is a Sam Raimi film, and gotta say, even though that this movie is just about pistol duels, gotta say, just like a really interesting, fun piece, and the thing that I like about it is that Ellen is to have been like a woman who had disappeared and is just to miraculously come back seeking her revenge after a number of years of just stewing away about her father's death to want to come back and have absolutely nothing stopping her trying to get to this revenge. And we go on, and then we have a number of just interesting characters. We have Court, who is to be a man that had gone on and killed a number of people and decided at one point through the story of which that's in this movie that he needed a change, that he needed some redemption, and he was to go on and become a preacher, become a man of the cloth. And then he goes on and turns around and starts murdering people again. Simply because he needs to live. You have that flight or fight response, and I guess Court in this instance is to choose fight. Sadly enough. So then we just get a cluster of other people who are to go on, and money is the real true root of all evil in this story. Or really, it's just to go on and, like, some one-upsmanships, or to really just showcase how much of a fraud someone is, or how much, like, there's so many, like, kind of stories here that it's like, okay, like, there's something shady about this character, we're gonna have to figure it out. So, with that said, like, I enjoy this film. It's very enjoyable. For those of you, I am not normally won over by Western films. There has to be a really good story, because all that we get for visuals a lot of times is just like people galloping off for like a long stretch of time. And like we get that in this movie. But still, like, there has to be a good enough story, and I feel like we get that here. Because a lot of times, a lot of Westerns are just scenery pieces, and it's like, really? Like, I seriously have to go on and, like, a lot of Westerns are like paint drying kind of movies, where it's like, they're showing me some beautiful, like, hey, like, haven't you seen anything ever so beautiful in your life? It's like, it's just it's just outdoors. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, so I would have to say, like, even though I'm praising this film, grading wise, I would have to say that this is just kind of a, like, it's a good film. Like, I would have to just kind of say that it's just, like, the thing that is to, like, have my grading be the positive the most just has to be Ellen's story. It's so good. And to just have a female character being the real, like, lead here that everybody's kind of like holding on, is just like a really good story also. So with that said, where can you conveniently see this? Well, conveniently, luckily enough for us, it's on Netflix right now. Great. I've actually been wanting for a very long time to see this movie again, because I had seen it once before, and I'm like, oh my god, this movie was so good. I think at one point I went on to review some other Western film that I think had Idris Elba in it, like The Harder They Fall, I think was a thing that I reviewed. And I think I got the name of this confused, and I think I ended up saying like High Noon or something, because like I was thinking of like the most like well-known Western name, and that's the only thing I could think of. So High Noon is not this, a little different. But anyways, so yeah, so I think I've kind of teed up. So let's go on into spoilers. At the end of the day, I think it's about that time to just go into that customary double five time territory. It's about that time to just go on as per usual and go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this movie. I always like I'm weirdly just kind of doing a lot of stuff with my hands, and I'm always just kind of weirdly concocting within seconds of time of just doing something goofy with the spoilers instead of doing the normal just kind of hand jobby things, and then just I could have done the gun thing would have worked perfectly with this movie, but anyways, it's too late now. So spoilers, let's get into it. So in the beginning of this film, we have a flashback being done where, of course, a lot of redemption deputies are being killed by John Harold's men, who is Gene Hackman in this movie. So, in the beginning of this film, we have a guy named Dog Kelly who is to have this kind of horse and buggy and is to see Ellen come like horse riding to him, and Kelly is to go on and be like, hey, like, you aren't gonna get to me, woman, or you aren't gonna get to me, whoever you are. And so Kelly tries to kill Ellen, and we just see like this hole in her hat, and that's all we see. And so Ellen is to go on and take and beat down this guy and take his hat, and then is to go on instead of killing him. And Dog Kelly is telling Ellen as he's handcuffed to this wheel, he's like, when I see you again, I'm gonna kill you, because everybody has that southern, because it's a cowboy western film accent for the most point, with the exclusion of certain people that they're gonna sound the way they sound regardless. So we have Ellen making it back into this town where, of course, she is drudging up old memories to the point of her consistently getting flashbacks throughout this movie of her being with her papa, her guy who, of course, is to be called Marshall. Yeah. And come to find out he was a marshal, because badge. But still, we consistently have Ellen who's getting these flashbacks, and I think I'm going to just cover all of the flashbacks right now. Like, I get it, like, story reasoning, like, there's to be a whole reason to go on and just kind of chop these things up, but I don't like to do that. I just don't. So, with that said, Ellen is to go on and be with Harold and his men. So it seems that Harold's men are to go on and kill all these deputies, and then is to go after Marshall. So we have, of course, Ellen that is to be pushed to see Marshall be hung here. And so we see Harold, who is to start shooting this chair, at some point having the chair possibly break, and then Marshall is going to hang and is going to die. But we have Harold who is to take Ellen and give her a gun, and is to tell this girl, it's like, well, hey, like, you can go on and free your father. All you need to do is just shoot the rope. If you shoot the rope, like, he'll go free. So Ellen is to try to shoot the rope, and she's putting the gun up with her two hands, and Ellen's like, I don't think I can do it. And Marshall is telling his daughter, it's like, well, hey, like, I believe in you, honey. Like, for anything that happens, like, remember that your daddy loves you. I'm like, oh my god. So Ellen is trying to put the gun up, and she accidentally, instead of shooting the rope, she shoots her father in the head and kills him. And Harold's like, well, I'll accept that as a death. And they run off, or they ride off. So Ellen is to have been stewing for years to come back and hunt this man down and murder him. But when Ellen is to get so close to Harold and she just can taste this guy's death on her tongue, she can't go through with it. She has this hesitation, or she has this moment of like, I'm too good of a person to want to kill this man. So we'll figure that out as the story goes along. So we have Ellen come into town within now what is current time. So we have a number of these gunslingers that are all just kind of popping out of nowhere. All these guys who at some point are to be these flashy, like, seems like circus act like performer gunslingers. We have Ace, who is to go on and do this bizarre horse trick where he is to like kind of fling off of his horse and shoot this ace card, and like is to do this weird magic trick with this card, and he shoots it and all that jazz. And come to find out, this guy is like such a big name that he is to have a certain deck of cards that is to have a ace added every time he kills somebody. As if that matters. So Ellen is to come into town and see this prisoner or guy that just got out of jail called Scars. Scars is going and make it his way into this bar, pull a guy out of the bar, and as Scar is to get this drink, he is to go on and kill this man as he's riding off in this horse. So it's like, okay, all right, well, I guess this is a normal day in the life. So, but Ellen was to also make her way into this bar, and she, of course, is to go on and ask Harris the bartender if there is, of course, rooms for rent. And we have Horace, who is to call Ellen a very like a shady name that I won't repeat here because I don't like to say that kind of. So Ellen goes on and is like, "Excuse me," and so since he repeats it, she is to see that this guy is on some chair trying to clean up some kind of putting something up, and so Ellen is to take down this chair, have this guy go "Pah!" like fall onto this thing, and is to kind of fall back, and Horace is like, okay, like get this woman a room, because obviously I ticked her off. So Ellen then goes out and is to notice Scar going on and killing this man as she is to go on and clean her boots. And so we have this blind shoe cleaner that is to mention about all of the possible things that he has for Ellen, and she's like, I don't want anything to do with that. So we go on and we go on to later, and so this contest is all starting, and so everybody's to get into the bar and start rallying off that they want to be a part of this competition, as Horace is to explain everything. So we also see Ellen who was to get to her room by a little girl who is to show her where, of course, she is staying, who, of course, was Katie. So, or yeah, I believe it's Katie. It's been a while. It's been a while. Anyways, so we have Katie go on and show Ellen to this room, and all of a sudden she's hearing whispers of stuff about people talking, and so we have Ellen open this door to have a number of people in this town trying to pay Cantrell off, and Cantrell is Keith David in this movie. Keith David. If you guys were ever to go on and watch They Live, or ever played like a Saints Row 3 or 4 game, Keith David is cool. Or you probably went on and saw like Chronicles of Riddick, or Pitch Black, the Riddick movies. Anyways, so Cantrell is to notice that this girl is to open this door, and so he is to close it. Like, I don't want you hearing anything about our deal that we're having here. Because it seems like the townspeople are trying to go on and get everything that they own to sell to Cantrell, so he can go on and try to kill Harold here because they want him dead. So everybody is to line up and eventually be having them being called out to who's going to be all the people who's going to participate here. So we have Cantrell eventually, who is to kind of put his name in the hat, and Horace is like, well, how do you spell that? And Cantrell is like, well, correctly. And so it's like, I thought that was funny. So we have, of course, both the kid and we have Eugene Dredd, who tie their name to this list, and we have Scars, who ties his name to this list, and we have Ace, who ties his name to the list because he just says, like, just put up Ace there, like, everybody will know who that is. So it seems that now Harold is to come in here with Court, and Court is to be kind of like hung right in this bar. They set up this rope, and so Court's going to get hung right in this bar. So while Ellen is watching on as Court is to be this pastor who's fending for his life, who's getting roped here, and Harold is shooting Court's chair, like of course he had done a time before with Ellen's father Marshall. So Ellen is to be reminded of this, and so what Ellen decides to do is that she's going to throw her hat in to being a part of this contest, and Horace is to mention that no woman has ever gone on to be part of this contest, and Harold's like, like, I don't care, just, like, add her in. Like, I don't care. Like, she'll die as well as the rest of us. So, but Court is still hanging here, and Ellen is to shoot Court down. And so Harold's like, well, yeah, how about you just, like, add Court too? Like, add them both. Who cares? So they add them, and so Court is now chained by this fountain and is forced to have to, like, try to, like, get to this, like, this glass of water, which he has it fall over, and he's like, ah, crap. So Court, the only way he's to get any kind of drink is by hoping that it rains so that we can go on, like, ah. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry about my my ugliness, but, like, I need to go on and, like, there's only so many ways that I can go on and get a drink of water. So you would have thought like somebody would have just like handed him a cup at some point to kind of get him like goofily without having to like but that's the story now, isn't it? So so everybody is to go on and find out the payout of this contest, and so we go on and we have Ellen that is to be consistently just staring down Harold to the point where Harold eventually is staring back at her. And so it gets to the later part of the movie when Harold at some point is to ask Ellen at dinner and say that Harold is to find Ellen very attractive. Wish she would have known. Wish she would have known that Helen or Ellen was going to be the one there, murdering him at some point. Hopefully, because of revenge. So we go on into this first contest, and so people start challenging everyone, and we of course have to kind of pull times out of a hat for them to duel, and so Ellen is to go on and get drunk, and it seems that she had a fun time with the kid who of course is Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who is to really be Harold's son, but everyone just calls him the kid, as if he's like Billy the Kid, and so on and so forth. So Ellen is to wake up the next day on top of a bunch of like small barrels of dynamite, and is to have this kind of uncomfortable sleep, but the kid is to go on and tell Ellen, it's like, well, hey, like, it seems a lot of the things that you're sleeping on is stuff that people want to try to steal from me because it's dynamite. So, so now everyone is to start to get like challenge things happening. So the first one up, of course, is to be this Swedish champion that everybody's like, yeah, Swedish champion. Yeah, like, I'm sure. So, the Swedish champion is to go on and want to challenge the kid. And so, like, at first, this isn't to the death. Like, a lot of people can submit, or when it just comes down to it, if someone has really gotten shot up pretty badly, yeah, they're going to go on and just kind of throw in the towel here. So we have Gutzen, who is to decide to, or Gutzen, who is decided to take his gun and chuck it away to forfeit here. And the kid is, of course, to be even more confident because, like, yeah, like, this guy already had an ego. Now he's had a bigger ego just because he's gone on to kill this Swedish, or shot up this Swedish champion. So now we go on and we have to kind of thin the herd a little bit for some of these people. And so we go on and we have like certain characters that are kind of deemed to be less important here, that it's like, well, hey, like, we just want to go on and have a lot of numbered of people that are going to get shot and chopped up here. So we have certain characters like the spotted horse that is to go on and mention that he has been shot numerous times and he has lived through all of them. Like, he's been shot more than 50 Cent. Like, this guy is like, has like tons and tons of bullets, like bullet wounds all over his chest, is to have a bullet somewhere in his head somewhere that's still there, and he has like, he's shot in the he's been shot in the hand, he's been shot in the leg, he's been shot everywhere, he's been shot in the foot. Like, this guy has been through it all, and at some point he's gonna go on and kill somebody. So Now we have the quick list of nobodies, sadly, that end up getting killed here. So we have Montoya, who is to go up against Spotted Horse. And of course, Spotted Horse is to kill Montoya. Simp is, of course, to be killed by Dread, who is to go on and consistently pelt this guy with guns. Dread, of course, is to be the guy who is to go into this contest with this skeleton looking makeup, which they are weirdly just wiping off now. Like, I was like, what was the point of that? Like, did the guy have a makeup allergy? Was this like Halloween? Like, what was going on here? And we eventually end up finding out that Dread is to try to proposition Katie to be with him in his bedroom. And when Ellen is to find out about this, that this girl was kind of forced into bargaining with this man and having to be with this man, Ellen kind of goes like she sees red and she just wants to kill this guy off. But we'll get to that later. So after Simp is to be killed, we have Sparks, who was killed by Clay or Cantrell. Like Cantrell is to be very, very quick with his delivery because he has a gun that just kind of flips and then like shoots. So like weirdly, just a very quick delivery by Cantrell here. So we also have Scars, who is to murder a guy named Ford, or a guy named Redford. And so, like, a lot of pointless, just kind of montaging kills here. So now we transition on to a much more important kill. And so Ace is to go on and do this horse trick where he is to kind of sit on this horse and then kind of flip completely around the horse, and is to land on his feet, and then is to shoot this card out of this girl's hand, who is to go on and have this ace card, and he is to like, voila, like I did it. And so Harold is to go on and tell Ace that Harold is to go on and be like, well, like, didn't you shoot a thumb off a girl with that trick once before? Like, yeah, I guess you have to get really lucky come down to that trick. So Harold is just trying to tick this guy off, and so now we go on to the duel between Ace and Harold. So we of course have Harold that is to just kind of be cockingly like mention, it's like, well, hey Ace, like, how well can you shoot? Can you shoot from your left hand? Can you shoot from your right hand? And so Harold is going on, and once the time is to start, Harold is to shoot this guy's hands, both of them, because like Harold again just wants to make an example of the people who are to challenge him in the kind of the beginning runs of this. And then Harold goes on to then kill Ace. And so Harold is to go on at some point and think that Ace is the hired gun that this town hired, the people in the town, to try and kill Harold. But when Harold is to see Cantrell, Harold's like, you know what? Like, I think you might be the hired gun that they hired to come after me. And so that's eventually when Harold and Cantrell are like, well, like, I think it's about time for us to kind of duel. So that, of course, is to eventually go on. So we have Cantrell, who is to duel Harold here, and we have Harold who is telling Cantrell that he's going to make an example of him. And I think this is also like right before both Ellen and both Harold are going to go to dinner. Or this is like the Cantrell Harold thing is like right after both Ellen and Harold have dinner. So Ellen and Harold have dinner, and Harold is trying to figure out how he knows Ellen, and Ellen is to go on and is to be hiding this gun, as she, of course, was to be searched. So Ellen is to try to get this gun out, and it seems that she's to almost drop it onto the ground. She's trying to like fiddle with it and like be prepared to go on and shoot Harold. But then she was in so much fear that she couldn't go through with it. She just rides off to then be tempted to just forfeit and quit and everything like that. And so Doc Wallace is to talk to Ellen to persuade her to come back into town, because Doc, of course, is to mention about her father's grave, knowing full well he knows who exactly she is because he brought her into this world. Doc is to mention that her father's grave is unmarked. Because, like, Doc wanted to put a cross there and signify the grave, but anybody was to go on and try to destroy that. And so, yeah, or just like a gravestone of some kind. So whoever was to come by was to destroy the gravestone, or the tombstone. So no one could find out where this guy was buried. So now we go on, and we, of course, while Harold and Cantrell are fighting, we have kind of rain going on off and on. And so that's when, of course, we have Court, who's like, he's trying to get a drink of water because he can't. And Harold is mentioning to Cantrell, once the rain stops, he'll make an example of him. So the rain stops, and so this duel ends up happening. And so Harold versus Cantrell. And so everybody is like riding on Cantrell, like, oh my god, I hope this guy does it. And Harold goes through and just starts blasting through him, and is to put a hole in this guy. And Harold is now ticked to this town and is telling him, it's like, well, hey, like, evidently I'm not taking nearly enough away from you people. Like, I need to go on and take more. Like, for the fact that you are to still be living in this town is all because I allow it. And that you live and breathe is because I say so. So, and that these people have gone on and, like, had money just set aside to pay for this man to try to kill Harold. Like, that's what he's so upset about. And this guy possibly isn't all that good. So now we have, of course, that. And so now we get to the whole, like, Ellen confronting Dredd thing, about him going on and taking advantage of this young girl. And so Ellen wasn't having it, and so she was gonna go and take Dredd and start beating the crap out of him in this bar. And they're like, well, hey, save it for the duel. Like, you guys can challenge one another. And so these two cannot wait for the rain to stop. They are dueling in the rain. And so Ellen is firing her gun and Dredd is firing his. And they're just like running at one another. It's not dueling, it's like they're running at one another. And so Harold is watching on with his umbrella, and so Ellen is to get Dredd pretty good and shot up, and Ellen is to be tempted to shoot Dredd. Dredd is pleading for his life at this point, and Ellen does not want to go on and kill Dredd. And Harold, of course, is telling Ellen, it's like, well, hey, like, this ends with someone dead. Because once Harold is to go against Cantrell, they're now saying that, because Harold just likes to change the rules, Harold wants to go on and now have people die. So did I mention anything about like I think Court had like a match before this, but I don't remember what the guy was. I think Court had killed somebody, but I don't remember who exactly it was. Because he shot somebody once before, and so that might actually be Foy. It might, like, the one guy who is to have a number of kids, and he is to go up against Court, and Court, of course, in this battle was to go on and shoot this guy, and we have Harold who was like he beat him like quickly and so on and so forth. So because Court was mentioning that he was gonna want to like shoot his gun, but then when all of a sudden like the time like was ticking away and Court, like, everything started to slow down. He was kind of just seeing like this beer being poured, and Court all of a sudden was just like, everything had slowed down, and so Court like shot this guy because it was an impulse, and so like eventually Court moves on. Like, I forgot about how Court was to go on and shoot somebody, because like to me it wasn't really all that important to the story. Because there's a whole reason why I'm mentioning that now. So Ellen was, again, not wanting to shoot Dredd. He's fearing for his life, and Ellen just walks away. Harold was to mention, it's like, wait, like, one of you has to die. And Ellen goes back to the bars, thinking that like she's not going to adhere to the rules. Dredd all of a sudden comes in from the bar, running with this gun into the bar. Ellen turns, kills him, and Harold's like, well, okay. Like, Ellen goes on to the next round. Like, either way, like, the person ends up dead, Ellen ends up winning, we'll take it. So, next up, we, of course, have Court and Spotted Horse. Court is to consistently have one bullet in his gun. As we had, of course, seen in this movie, Court like didn't have a gun with him, and so Harold was to go and see his son, because of course his son is to have a number of different guns to sell. And so Harold is to say, like, well, hey, like, kid, like, what do you got? And so we have it, of course, where the kid is mentioning about all these, like, very schwanky guns and all these, like custom made guns that are like ridiculously expensive. They're like $100 and something like that. And Harold is to turn to Court. It's like, well, hey, like, do you have $100? And Court's like, no, because like anything that like that I've been given from the Lord to help me provide, like that's all I've ever needed. And so Harold's like, well, okay, well, like, you know what? I want to give Court a fighting chance. Like, so Harold is telling the kid, it's like, well, what's like the cheapest gun that you got? And the kid is like, well, here's $5. And so Harold's like, sold. The kid, of course, is telling Court that this gun would shoot straight or he wouldn't sell him that. So the kid is giving Court a fair chance to have a gun that just barely works. So now Court is against Spotted Horse, and Court is to have also had Ellen, Harold, and himself like together, and Harold is to tell Ellen this story as Harold is to have his shoulder over Ellen, mentioning that Court had killed this preacher. And Court is to mention to Ellen, like, well, yeah, but like Harold had put this gun to my head and gave me the count of 10 to shoot this priest, so I had to. And so I guess that's what gave Court the path of going on to becoming a priest himself. So, and now let's get to this battle. Now that I've covered everything, because there's a lot of just dialogue that I didn't get to, or I just kind of quickly just kind of skipped around about, because I kind of skipped around a lot about like the Court stuff, because some of the stuff I said before about the whole rain and all that jazz. So, Court, Spotted Horse. Now, so Court is to have one bullet, and so Court is to shoot Spotted Horse. And Spotted Horse is to go down. It's like, okay, like winner, but all of a sudden Spotted Horse to get back up, because Spotted Horse does not go down easily. So Court is now desperately calling for another bullet from anyone, and he of course is to get another bullet from the blind boy who tosses the bullet to Court. Court puts this bullet into this gun, is to shoot Spotted Horse again. He is to fall over again, tries to put his gun up, drops it, and Spotted Horse now dead. So, oh, we also had the Gold Teeth Man. Ah, what a sad story that was. The Golden Teeth Man, where everybody was like afterwards, like, hey man, we gotta get that gold teeth. We gotta pull that out. Wasn't that a great part of the story? So now we push on to like the semifinals, and so now we only have 4 people left. The 4 people left are conveniently on this poster. Isn't that great? So we have Harold that is consistently telling his son to hang it up, to not do this contest. And because like this contest is like I guess sponsored by Harold and Wells Fargo. Isn't that a little great tagline that they had there? So Harold is to consistently trying to like tell like his son, it's like, well, hey, like you don't have like a gunslinger's hand, like you have a farmer's hand. And so because of the kid like not feeling like he's never going to be good enough, the kid is to challenge his own father, which forcibly leads both Ellen and Court to have to fight one another. So, and I'm hoping that I've kind of covered everything at this point because it feels tempting to. So, uh, we also had a moment. Oh, wait. No, no. I was thinking of something that hasn't quite happened yet. So, Harold and the kid. So, the whole time Harold is trying to get the kid to bow out, but like, hey, like, resign, like, stop. And the kid's like, no, like, I'm gonna finally go on and show everybody that I'm as good as my father. I'm just as fast. And so they do this duel, and of course, the kid is to get shot in the belly, and his father is to get shot in the neck. And the kid, of course, is to fall over, and he is bleeding from his chest, and he's like, I don't want to die. And the kid was trying to convince Ellen before to try to stay here because he liked her. And Ellen was just so, like, in her head wanting to just write off. He's like, well, didn't you hear me? Like, I like you. And that didn't do anything. So now Ellen is holding the kid as he is to die. And as like the kid is to die, we have Harold who mentions to Ellen, yeah, like he wasn't really mine. He wasn't ever really mine. And I'm like, oh my god, what a horrible thing to say. Harold's like, well, yeah, like this kid like was to be like some bastard son that I found out later that he wasn't even really mine. And like there's proof of that. And so it's like, oh my god, Harold, even when within his son's death, is to just like, well, like if I die, I'm not gonna be leaving anything to this kid anyways. So even if he was going to beat him. So now we have Ellen and we have Court. And so Ellen is asking this blind boy, it's like, well, hey, do you have any ink on you? Or do you have any ink? What kind of color ink do you have? So Ellen and Court are to fight out here. And neither one of them want to draw even when the time starts ticking. Harold is mentioned that one of them have to kill one another. And because both of them are trying to do everything to get out of this, they're trying to both bow out. And Harold is telling them, like, no, you can't bow out anymore. Like, your time of leaving is already gone. So, sorry. So, Court and Ellen go out and duel, and Harold's like, well, I'm going to count to 10, and if you don't shoot one another, I'm just going to shoot the both of you. And my men are going to also shoot you. So, forcibly, we have Court and we have Ellen, and so it seems that Court is to shoot Ellen, and Ellen is have this red ink on her, and the doc is to come over and he's like, she's dead, she's dead. Yeah, you vultures, stop trying to get at her, because there was a number of people who kept grabbing at everyone's clothes. Like they freaking took Ace's clothes and like stripped him like beyond his like onesie pajamas. And like Scars, they're like, dude, like we're gonna need to bury this guy deep because this guy has some smell to him. And like everybody is just like clawing and stripping away all of these guys after they are to get killed. But the doc is like, no, no, no. So the doc is to take care of Ellen, and we have to assume that she's dead because story will tell us that. So now we have it between Harold and Court, and we have some scores that are to desperately want to be settled. So Ratsy is to be a guy who was to have Court break his nose not once but twice. So Ratsy is torturing Court, just beating the crap out of him, and is to break this guy from his gunslinging hand. He's to break this guy's like finger to go on and try to pull the trigger. So when Court is to show up the next day and his hand is broken, Harold is asking Ratsy, it's like, well, hey, what happened to this guy's hand? And Ratsy's like, well, like, I did that. And Harold's like, well, hey, like, now you, because of what you did, you have 20 seconds to get out of town. And Ratsy is now running, and he's like, come on, like, get going, like, come on. So Harold is to shoot Ratsy and is to continue on with this duel. And Harold is telling Court, it's like, well, like, you know what, like, I could probably go on and shoot with my other hand, but I'm good with both hands. And so, like, there is no, like, fairness that you are to get here. So Harold and Court are to duel here, and once it seems to be closer and closer to time, all of a sudden all these explosions happen all over the town. There's just numerous buildings that just explode here at the end of this movie. And so Harold is now on the ground. He's like, what the is going on? So Court and Harold are like, what's going on here? And so Court, of course, is to go on and start shooting some of Harold's men with these guns. And we have Court, who is to tell Harold that I think it's about time for rules to be changed and for Harold to fight fair. And all of a sudden, out of the shadows, we have Ellen, who is now back out of all this smoke that is to clear. And Harold is now telling Ellen, it's like, you're dead! Like, you were dead! And she's like, well, yeah. Like, no, I'm not. And I'm coming back. And Harold's like, well, you're not faster than me. And Ellen's like, well, this day I am. And so now we have Ellen that is to start to go through and start shooting Harold. And she shoots him and ends up shooting him like through the eye. And weirdly, we just have Harold who's doing this bizarre, like, he's getting shot and he's like really like falling back, or when he gets shot in the head, he like flips and all this like goofiness, as if this like shot was like so absurdly fast that it just like flung him and all this kind of crap. So now we have the end of this movie where of course Ellen is to have killed the man that she had come here to kill, and so Ellen, before she was to kill Harold, was to toss this marshal's badge in front of Harold, reminding Harold that she, of course, was Marshall's daughter. And he's like, oh, so you came back for revenge. So come to find out, Ellen, when she is to kind of leave this town and just want to get the heck out of here, we find that Court is to pick up this badge and be like, maybe Maybe I can go on and be the sheriff of this town, if not the pastor. Because of course, when Harold was to see how many times the court has now killed everybody, Harold is take off Court's like preacher thing from his shirt, and is to call him like, "Hey, killer." And I was like, yeah, I kind of figured that he would go on and call him a killer now, and I was expecting that. So exactly when he did it. So with that said, I think that technically covers this movie. If not, I know I did it in a very roundabout way. I brought things back in, but like, really, that was the only way of which that I could go on and figure out how to do all of this and talk about all of it. And so that's just the way of which that I review. So without further ado, I'm just gonna get the heck out of here so I can go on and possibly review another piece. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of this piece. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.